What's up, everyone? Matt Mrozik, and I want to do a couple of videos today before I pack these things up and get them ready to send to their clients. So the first one up is this quarter scale Sabertooth Sculpted by Franco Carlesimo. I actually finished this guy about, a week ago. I finished him last week. And I kept him because the Wolverine I did after this, the client asked if I could take some photos of them together. So I just simply asked the Sabertooth client if I could hold on to this for another week so I could take photos, and he said, sure, no problem. I only took like 3 or 4 photos of Wolverine and Sabertooth together because this guy is so heavy. And with Wolverine together on my table, I was afraid that my table might collapse. This guy is huge. He's massive. He's like 23 inches wide, 23 inches tall, and about 18 inches deep. Or is it 25, 25, 18? I don't know. I measured it a while ago. But this guy was a lot of fun to paint and challenging at the same time. So dealing with something this big, the challenging part is just logistics. How do you handle something so big and so heavy? So a lot of times my clients will get pieces and will be holes drilled in some of the keys that don't go to anything because I actually use big hooks. I'll drill holes in the pieces and I'll use big hooks like this to go in those holes. That way I can, I'll have some of my photo light stands up to the side. I can hang pieces up to dry. I can hang them to spray and such like that. Because otherwise there's no way to physically handle these pieces and paint them at the same time without screwing up the paint. So that's the hard logistics. Just dealing with how big it is one thing. The amount of materials is another thing. They're expensive to do. They cost a lot of money to do because of the amount of materials it takes just to paint them. But this guy's a lot of fun. So he's got 3 heads. He's got this one. He's got an open mouth long hair and an open mouth short hair. And actually, I think my favorite portrait is the short haired one. But I'll come in closer and show you close-ups of the portraits. I'm really proud of these portraits. I think they're some of my best. Personally, I really like them. I think they turned out really nice. Another fun part was the Wolverine on the base. At first, I thought it was a raccoon, but nope, it's a Wolverine. He was a lot of fun to paint because I don't paint a lot of animals, and I think he turned out pretty good. I'll come in close on that. The base was challenging because there's just so much brown in it. So it's challenging to kind of get some separation between everything. And I did that by adding water to the bottom of the base and make it look like it's a damp river, muddy bed, a damp, muddy riverbed. And that turned out really nice. So I'll come in close on that. Yeah, this guy where did he take me? Like 65 hours, something like that, 65, 70 hours to do this guy. Actually, less time than I thought it would because of the size. When I did the body on him, I did have some problems with the kit. This is from a factory that gets used a lot. I'm not going to name the name, but I had some adhesion problems with the paint because initially I was going to use masking tape to mask off the yellow, but it was coming right off down to the primer. And that tells me that there was contamination at the factory before they primed it. So what I did is I did the yellow, and then I hand painted all the brown, and then I did a quick silly putty to the shading, and that worked out pretty well. Typically, I don't like to use silly putty on something this big because even doing the silly putty work took me several hours to mask with silly putty, probably 2.5, 3 hours, just to put the silly putty on so I could do the shading. But it turned out really nice, and I went ahead to go and touch up all the edges and stuff. So, and then I did all the stitching around the brown. A lot of people think that's really hard to do. It's not hard. It's just, again, a lot of stuff I do is I get in trouble from other painters because I say this. A lot of stuff I do isn't necessarily hard. It just takes time. So, the hard part on this was handling the big pieces, getting some separation between all the browns and stuff on the base and the log and the Wolverine. So that's like the hard part, really. But again, just things take time. And obviously knowing color theory and knowing how colors are going to interact. Another challenging part was a lot of, got some different foliage on here. So I just looked at photos of ferns and things like that and try to get some color differentiation between the grass and the ferns. So a lot of the ferns are actually the same, different base colors, but the same highlighting. So like this will have a deeper green than the fern on the back, even though the highlighting is relatively the same. All this, there's a bunch of these little things that come off the log. Those are just like a forest green. So I'll just do a quick spin around here so you can kind of see this base. This is an impressive piece. It's really cool. It was fun to do. The most challenging part is getting these ferns in the vase. I'm going to do a little video during this video for my client to kind of show them how they go together. It usually takes me 2 or 3 tries every time I put them together because they're just kind of finicky. But once you get them in, they stay. You can see these ferns are a little bit brighter in the front. There's some pine cones in the base. Again, I'll come in closer and show close-ups of everything. But I did a little bit of a green wash on some of the vines. There's some moss on the log, so I brought that out. Oops, I'm missing some pieces. Oops, come on. I forgot his metal spikes on his arms, and I just realized that these were not on when I took the photos of him with Wolverine. Too bad. I'm not redoing them. I'm not going to carry this. I don't know what he weighs. I need to weigh him. I'll get a sense when I pack him. But he's, whoopsie. This one is the tricky one. This one wants to fall out. It's really finicky. These will all probably fall out when I go and push this in. There we go. What was I saying? So I'm not going to go back and read those photos because I'm not going to carry this thing, take it apart. Again, I was doing this as a favor to my Wolverine client. I don't want to risk doing anything to this to, kind of appease the other client. But anyway, what was I saying? So moss on the log. So the logs turned out really, really nice. In person, there's a ton of different tones going on. I say this a lot in times of videos. Trees aren't brown. They're typically have gray tones in it. So there's a lot of kind of gray highlighting with a little warmness, like a warm gray, to bring out kind of that deadwood look. Went in with a lot of washes and shading and everything. So yeah, it looks good. The fingernail, I did like a dirty fingernail on those with some oils and stuff. The Wolverine turned out great. Really happy with the colors. The Wolverine I did a little punchier, not so orange yellow, and I think it looks really good. But I'm going to talk about that in the next video. So let's come in tighter here. And let's look at some of these portraits. So we got this guy. Let's see, I'm going to bring my exposure down just a little bit. That's actually about right. Okay. Again, I use my phone for video, so there's that guy. Now this hair is magnetized, but I'll see how it goes back in the box. I may just glue it on. We'll see. So you can see there's a hole there. That's what I used to hang the body from. I don't fill them in because you don't see them once everything's put together. This is a killer portrait, open mouth. There's some slight shading in the eyes. You can't see it here. A lot of stuff you can't see in camera or in photos because it's really subtle. So it's stuff you only your eyes would pick up in person. And for the skin tones, I actually did something different on these guys. I tried something that my friend Brent in the UK does on Ground Effected. I actually started with a black base coat and did some purple shading, highlighting on it. And then I did my skin tones on top. And you can't tell that I did that, but it does give it a different feel to it. So I think I may do that from now on when I just have portraits. So with the black, do a purple undertone, and then build up on top of that. You have to do a couple more layers, but it does give it a nice kind of fleshy undertone. It's kind of a really cool trick that he kind of, I don't know if he discovered it somewhere else or what, but it's a neat trick. And then this is actually my favorite one. I love the short-haired portrait. I just like the hair on it. It's like this. I'm going to leave this one on for the rest of the video because this is my favorite. I like his expression. So his expression's a little different. I don't know. Like if you look at these together, even though they're both open mouth, they're slightly different sculpt to the face. I could be wrong. Maybe Franco will see this and correct me, but they look slightly different, but I just like the hairstyle on this. I think it looks cool. So there's that. So the hair and the fur on the body are slightly different. The main difference is that they're basically all the same color. The main difference is on the hair for the portraits, I did a brown wash before the highlighting. So they're base coated in the same color. I did a brown wash on the fur and the eyebrows and everything on the portraits, and then did the highlighting. For the neck, I just did the base coat and the highlighting. So they're in the same color family, but the hair on the portraits are probably half a shade darker. So they look really nice in person. It's just a slight different color. My client didn't want to go kind of white like I did on the first Wolverine I did a while ago, or Sabertooth. So we kept it towards the blonde color family. All right, so let's move down the body here a little bit. You can see the fingernails there. You can see the stitching detail here all around the body and the suit. The arms do come off, so there is a seam right here, and they have to come off to be packed. It's not bad. I've seen a lot worse, so it actually doesn't bug me too much the way it's cut. It doesn't stick out to you when you see that. And then we got this kind of, for the base coat on the boots, I used, for the body and the boots, I used Vallejo Hull Red. That's the base color, so it's kind of a nice reddish brown. And then for the shading, I just added black to it and went in and did the shading. So relatively simple for that. Sorry, I had to sneeze, so I had to pause. So yeah, so typically I would do like a base coat, then a white highlight, and then some shading and stuff, but I kept it relatively simple on the brown, and it worked out. For the yellow, I actually did start out with the brown base coat, and then I did white highlighting, and then I layered my yellow on top, and then I went in with an orange and did some more shading and just kind of turned it a little more golden yellow. Going down to the base, here you can kind of see what we got going on. So again, I added some water effects, and for that, I was looking for, I think it's called Scenic Landscape Model Supply. Anyway, I was at Hobby Lobby, and I just found this stuff. It's called Realistic Resin Water. It's like $9 for this bottle. It didn't use much, and basically you just put it on, and you kind of push it where you want. Now you can pour this thicker. This says don't pour it thicker than 1/8 of an inch at a time. Let it dry overnight, and you can add more. So there's no really, like if I take the Wolverine off, the deepest part of this water is actually kind of like back here where the Wolverine sits. You really can't see it, but the idea was just to kind of help give some separation between all the different colors. And so I did it all through here, up on the leaves a little bit, so like they're wet, the pine cones are a little wet, and then I got little puddles of it here and there. So the bases, so I discovered something when I did the He-Man, as far as doing bases and simplifying the painting process, because probably a year ago I would have hand paint. I would have done it in the mud, and then I'd go in and hand paint the rocks, and then I'd go hand paint the sticks, and then I'd go hand paint the leaves, and that just takes fucking forever. So what I did is I basically painted it all the same color, and I use all my washes. So I start the mud, the rocks, the leaves, and the sticks. Basically all started out kind of the color of these sticks, this kind of grayish tone. And then I just go in with all the Vallejo washes, and I just go in either with a brush or an airbrush and just tint everything. So all the leaves started out gray like this. They had all the shading built in from all the dry brushing. And I just went in with the rust color and did the tinting. I add some rust and some yellow and some brown. And now look, I got dead leaves. So it's like one of those light bulb moments when you're kind of painting, you're trying to figure techniques out. And it's like, okay, perfect. So that's kind of like what I'm going to do for bases from now on. The Wolverine looks great. I love him. He turned out so cool. It's a little bright. Just knocked down my exposure. He was fun to paint. I'm going to take him off because his mouth turned out fantastic. So if you look at pictures of Wolverines, they kind of vary in tone. I picked the one I like the best, where it's kind of a dark brown, and then he had kind of these. They typically start with a blackish brown belly, and then they kind of go to like a blonde. I'm just gonna knock down my exposure here a little bit on him. Oh, hold on. Right about there. That's a little more accurate. Knock down my exposure. So then kind of go to a blonde, and then to like a nice reddish brown, and then some highlighting on the ears and the cheeks and stuff. So again, this is kind of dry brushing and using the washes and stuff. And then they just simply have a black nose and black eyes. So that's pretty simple. For the ferns, I'm going to come back and do a fern video on how to put those in for my client here in a minute after I do kind of all this turnaround. But you can see here, I got this kind of darkish brown mud color, and then I come up and do like yellows and greens to separate the top of the marsh, or whatever he's standing on. And then these leaves have some subtle highlighting in them. I did some green washes on these vines. It's very subtle. As you can see it in person, you may not see in photographs. And then back here on the back, again, we've just got some little areas of water just around the log, around the grass. Again, these ferns are a little tricky to put in, so I'll do a video here how to put those in. Kept this relatively dry back here, just a few little puddles of that water effect, just so it wasn't all wet, so it looks a little more natural. And there you go. That's it for about this. That's really it for this guy. Really fun piece to do. Massive. Again, sculpted by Franco Carlesimo. Let's bring up this exposure back. Let's get light back on his face. Yeah, so really cool. My client loves it. I love it. Right about there. And yeah, just really happy with the way it turned out. And I can't wait to ship it because he's huge. It comes in 2 massive boxes. So now, cut to, that's it for the review and overview of this piece. Now I'm going to show how these ferns go in. So if you want to stick around and watch, feel free to do so. Otherwise, it's the end of the overview of this piece. Now this is really just for my client. So I'm going to open up my exposure quite a bit. I'm going to take the Wolverine off because we don't need him. He's kind of in the way. Now these front ones are relatively simple. These go in pretty easy. These are really self-explanatory. So the back ones are a little tricky, but I'll take them out anyway. Now they actually are numbered, and there are numbers in the base, but they're hard to read. So your first one you're going to put in is going to look like this, So it's kind of medium size, and you know it goes towards the bottom because the key is like at a 90 degree angle because it kind of sits flat on the base. So this one goes right here in this first key like this, and it sits pretty flat, kind of curves this way. They all kind of stack on top of each other. The next one you're going to want to put in is one that looks like this. Okay, so it's kind of narrow. Again, the key is almost at a 90 degree, and that's going to sit. Oh, no, wrong one. Sorry. No, that should be it. Yeah. So it comes in like that. Okay. Alrighty. And the next one is going to be kind of this big guy, and the key looks like this on the end. And he's going to go on top of this guy. It just sits right in there and kind of starts pointing up. The next one's going to be the big flat one, and that goes right next to him, kind of pointing up. Now don't force these in. Just kind of let them fall in. And the last one's got this little tiny key like that, and that fits in like that. So these just fit, these go in really easily. Okay, now the back ones are a little trickier. You kind of have to, these you have to be a little more forceful because they want to fall out as you're putting them in. But once they're in, they stay. So these might fall apart as soon as I start taking these apart. But this usually takes me a few tries because they're a little finicky. The problem is that they have, like, one key has like 3 leaves in it. Okay, so the first one you want to put in is this one with this big key right here. This goes to the right. And that's the shape of it. And it's going to go right. It's going to go, let me get a pointer. It's going to go right here. Okay. And that lays down. And these leaves right here lay on flat on the base. The next one's got the biggest key right there. And it does something similar. It goes right here. Again, these leaves kind of hit the base. Now the rest is tricky. And this will take me a few times because I always forget which ones go where. Okay. So right here you have a key. This key right here holds 3 leaves at one time. This key right here actually holds 3 leaves at one time, but once that's in, that's not too hard. So this one right here, the key is like a triangle, is going to go behind this leaf, and it's going to lean towards you. I think this is the right one. Maybe not. Let's go back. See, again, this takes me a few tries every time I do this. No. Okay, take that back, rewind. This one with this key right here, you can see the cutout right here in this leaf right here. That fits right here. And that bottom leaf sits on the base. So goes right here, and that bottom leaf sits on the base. Just like that, okay? And then some of these keys are a little short. That's the problem. They need to be a little bit longer. So again, this is me trying to figure out where this goes because so be patient. I know this one's going to go. Ugh. Oh, hold on. Maybe that's got to go in first. Okay. Yeah, that's got to go. Sorry. Again, this is tricky because they have to kind of go in a certain order too. So that's got to go in. Just pay attention. That's all I got to say. This is going to take you a couple of tries. Okay, so that one goes there. This key needs to be longer. This is the one that likes to fall out all the time. So this one doesn't really lock in until you get the other stuff in. Okay. This one here is pretty easy. This one is kind of shaped like this. And it's going to go back here. Okay, so that locks in. Okay, now I'm going to put this one in here, and that's going to lay on top of this one here. Okay. And then this big one, I like to hold that in place. It's going to go in that other key back here. Okay. That kind of holds the one in place we just put in. Now this one with that triangular key is going to go in the back here in that same key. And that's going to kind of lock all that together. And the last one is this little skinny guy. There's a little key between, you can't even see it, but it's down here between these two leaves. And basically I put that in there and I just kind of push it down. You'll kind of feel it go in the hole, and I just give it a little push. And just don't push too hard because you'll break the key. And then that's it. And it kind of locks. Oh, that's supposed to be it. Once you get that in there, you'll kind of feel it go down in there. And then it should stay, but that's it. So these are really tricky. As you can see, even though I've done it like 10 times, it still takes me 2 or 3 tries to get them in. So there you go. So that was for Tony. So he knows how to put those together. But again, one last little comment on this guy. Overall, really, really cool piece. And super happy with the results. But there you go. That's the Sabertooth. I don't know the producer. I'm sure it's on the bottom of the label, but I'm not going to flip this base upside down to try to find out who it is. But it's sculpted by Franco Carlesimo, and just a really killer piece. This was actually sent to me by a different client, and then when it came time to paint it, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to sell it." It's like, "Oh man!" First of all, I was like, "Shit!" Well, there goes 2 weeks worth of work, and then I don't get to paint it. So luckily, my client Tony bought it from him, and I got to paint it. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video, which will be the Wolverine I just finished yesterday. So thanks for watching. Bye.